are you? Where are you coming from with that accent?
Yes, I'm an Australian, but I'm living in Dublin.
Dublin.
Yeah.
I'm off to Australia. I'm in Australia for Christmas.
What are you doing in Australia for Christmas?
I've got friends and family out there, so we're doing a bit of a grand tour, dotted around.
Where are you going?
Red Hill, outside of Melbourne.
I'm from Melbourne, and I love the Red Hill markets. Are you going to get to the Red Hill markets?
Totally. I've got the wonderful and the great Fred Skepsey is like my sort of great mentor and the dad I never had. And he's got a vineyard out there, so there's obviously food and markets. And then we're going to Lord Howe Island, and then we're going to Byron. So it's a whole.
I'm trying to be happy for you, but I would be lying if I didn't say I'm just a little bit jealous. And like, you get to spend Christmas the way I grew up spending Christmas. You get to have a summer Christmas.
I know. Well, if I told you the price of the flights, you would not be pleased for me. So
yeah, no, I believe you. I wanted to go home on a whim a couple of weeks ago. I went, do you know what? I need a hug. I'm going home. And then I looked at the prices and I went, I'm not going anywhere. I'll get a hug from somebody else.
Yeah, and there's 4 of us, so obviously that's 4 tickets.
Oh, it's really expensive, isn't it? But you know what? Forget about that. It's been booked, and you're going to have an amazing time in Australia. And do you know what, JJ? You should be celebrating because the Peripheral is out and it's doing really well. How do you feel about it being out there?
It's great that it's finally out. You know, we shot this a long time ago because of obviously COVID, and then Amazon had this other show they had to put out before us with elves and dwarfs and things. So we had a long wait till we could finally come out, and it's exciting because it was one of those, we shot it in COVID in such little bubbles and all over the place and all jumped around, that it was, to finally see it and see what it looks like was exciting.
What was that like filming during COVID? Because yes, we know you had the bubbles and stuff, but usually when you film a series like this, you've got a couple of months to get into your character and stuff. Did you have 2 weeks of intense shooting?
Yeah, partly because I got COVID. So
no.
they were trying to bubble each character, and because my character is always in my home, except for a couple of other sequences, it was an easy bubble. So I flew in a couple of months before to shoot the scene on the bridge, because that's exterior.
Yeah.
And then I got COVID, and then we had to wait. So I was the last 10 days of shooting in London. So there was no space for any screw ups, and I think it was amazing to do it like that, because you just sit in your character for 2 weeks. You don't have that, oh, I've got 5 days off, you know, what am I going to go see? You know, it was Wimbledon and the Euros. I was just in Lev for 2 weeks, and it meant I wasn't away from my family long, so I was just hotel, Lev, set, you know.
How intense is that though? Because like, I know it's boring asking an actor, how do you learn your lines? But when you're doing 2 weeks, it's full on. It's not like you can go, okay, I'll learn this scene and then I'll have a bit of a break. Like, you're always on.
It was, you know, it was a challenge because Lev has these endless speeches, you know, he loves the sound of his own voice. I suppose I approach it like a play, that you just have to learn it all ahead of time. I have a pet hate of people who don't know their lines. So the last thing I want to be is that person. So I just worked really, really hard on getting it all down. And then, of course, they'll give you rewrites and really screw you up. But there was a long time ago, I did a film called Telstar, and I wasn't sure about it. And my agent said, look, can you just do the read-through, because they haven't cast the part yet. So I said, sure, I'll go do the read-through, just to help the director out, who was a friend. So I did the read-through, and Con O'Neill was the lead. And Con was so incredible at the read-through. This was on a Friday, and they started filming on a Monday. I called my agent on a coffee break and said, Con's incredible. Is this part still open? And my agent said, oh no, I never turned it down. It was always yours. Like the best agenting ever. But I had just that weekend to play a real person. And it was the same thing. I just sat in front of a TV screen with the character on loop. There's only one interview with the real person on loop, and then just walked on set on Monday in it. And there's something about when you don't have any distraction that's really, really, really good. It's hard when you've got family and kids and you get distracted. You know?
But look, you did have the 2 weeks away from the family and the kids, so it was quite intense. So then, what is it like, JJ, leaving that, right? It's, you know, it's one thing leaving the character behind, but then you left that really strange world that the Peripheral is set in to go back into another really strange world. Your head must have been really messed up.
Oh, I love it. I want as many weird worlds as possible. That's my job. I'm a professional fantasist. Bring on the fantasy.
How do you shake off the characters though, especially when they sit with you for so long? Also, sure.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I just don't really. I don't have that as an issue. I think it's more living with it before you start, while you're in the middle of it. You know, there's always a bit of life imitating art, but the second you're done, it's funny. You can never remember your lines the next day. However massive the scene was yesterday, your brain somehow compartmentalizes it for the next scene tomorrow. So I don't. Sometimes it's more the exhaustion, and I've been playing a lot of villains recently, so I'm hoping that I'm letting go of the characters pretty easy.
Oh, but come on, the villains are fun, and I've heard people say, you know, when you play a villain, if you're going to play them well, you have to find the humanity within that villain. So when it comes to Lev, did you find anything in there that you went, do you know what, I'd like to take a piece of him home with me?
You know, no villain thinks they're doing wrong. Every villain thinks they're doing something for the greater good. It's just that their version of the greater good does not align with anyone else in the world. I think my goal with Lev is I wanted him to be someone, however scary, that you'd invite to a dinner party. You know, that's like, oh God, Lev would be a great guest. I mean, we'd want to make sure he leaves at the end of the night, but you want him some that the audience want to spend time with. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, you got to take this to Comic-Con. What's it like going to, you know, those fan events and then being up on the stage?
It's awesome. You know, I mean, look, they're fans. They want to see it. That's the best place to be. You know, it's not you know, it's not an opening night worrying about reviews and what people are going to think about it. It's just people who really love that world. And I've done it before. I've done Comic-Con with another show before, and it's beautiful to have other people's joy reflected back at you. The difference about this one was Kilter and Amazon went and built part of the set in the middle of New York Comic Con, right in the center of the center hall of the center space. So like, they went all out and they created an immersive live set so people could go through and experience it. And I like that scale I hadn't experienced in terms of a Comic Con at all.
That's amazing. This show is about technology and like to the extreme. What piece of tech can you not live without? If you had to give everything up tomorrow, what would be the one thing that you go, no, I'm just holding on to this piece?
You know, it's terrible. I was thinking about that question, and all I could think of was, I wish I could. Like, I mean, my front gate is on this phone. I can't get
everything on your phone? Everything is on your phone.
To a certain degree, it's pretty frightening. You know, from the heating to the this to the, you know, my banking to, and we've been completely handcuffed to it, whether we like it or not. And that's what's scary, is that we have to take little breaks, but you can't get rid of it completely. And that's, unless you want to go live on a desert island, and yes, wouldn't that be lovely? But I would love to be off the grid. I have kids, and the fight of screen time is the biggest challenge as a parent, and the only way to do it is to not do it yourself. And
which sometimes is hard to model.
Yeah, you know, I want to be the role model for them. We have some friends in New York who do no power, not even screens, no power. I think they used to call it a no power Wednesday, or it was a no electricity Wednesday. So they would literally light candles, have dinner by candlelight and read. And there was like one day of the week where you're off the grid, even in the middle of New York. And I just thought, I just remembered that. And I thought, I've got to bring that. That'd be awesome.
Wow. Yeah. It'd be awesome for 5 minutes, JJ. I'm all about the engaging. You know, you were talking about being tied to your phone. I'm like, I'm not tied to my phone. And then you mentioned heating, and I sound like such an old one, because one of the most exciting things is I got the app to control my heating. Yeah. So I no longer have to, like, before we get up, I don't even do it myself. I tap my husband on the shoulder and go, will you just turn the heating on so we don't have to go downstairs to a cold house? It's like, it's just pure joy.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
But, you know, tech has made our lives so much easier. And, you know, we think It can make every part of our lives easier. But what's one part
Is it
of
easier? Is it easier, or is it more complicated?
Sometimes it can be more complicated, especially when even starting off this Zoom, we were going, how do we do this? Am I upside down? Are you upside down? Like, it's in one way, I suppose, being an Australian living in Dublin, I can connect with my family back home. And that is amazing, especially being an Australian who comes from parents who are immigrants. And I saw my mum, going 6 months without talking to her parents because, but then, in other ways it complicates it. But, it can't take over everything, can it? Like, what part of humanity do you think that tech just can't do?
Well, like, for example, my dad's arriving. My parents are arriving tonight. And
how exciting.
Yeah, and they're going to see the grandkids. And without Zoom or WhatsApp or whatever else we connect on, I wouldn't have had contact forever. However, before that, I'm just old enough to remember, before that, we wrote letters, and that took thought. That took a lot more thought than a quick emoji. So I'm thrilled that technology keeps me closer to my family. Yeah. But there's nothing better than just human contact. I can't wait to throw my arms around them and for my kids to jump all over their grandparents. And nothing's ever going to beat that. Not any freaking metaverse is ever going to actually beat physically holding someone.
It's so true. Like, during the pandemic, we all thank God for Zoom. But it wasn't until my 6-year-old, I didn't realize, we were talking to my parents back home, and my 6-year-old turned around one day and he saw a photo of my dad and he went, oh, he's taller than your mum. And I went, oh my God, you had no idea. Because he'd only ever seen him on Zoom from the waist up. And it's just like, wow. It is those things that we just take for granted. And oh my God, I'm so jealous. I'm so happy for you though too. Enjoy that reunion. It's going to be amazing.
Wonderful. It's the first time, I think, because obviously my family are in England, and it's been a long time. It's been a couple of years since my mom got over here. I've got to England, so that's different, and we get there. We're very tight and we Zoom a lot and all that sort of stuff.
It's not the same.
We WhatsApp a lot, but I can't wait to physically be there and do something together.
In this series, Burton is about to go into the game, and it says to him, are you ready to lay claim to your destiny? When did you realize that, do you know what? I think for me, acting is my destiny. That's where I'm going. And then you made that decision, and then you went, oh, I'm actually going to follow through.
It's funny. It's what I always wanted to do, and I'm incredibly lucky. My first school play, like 6 years old, I thought, oh, this is the class that I like, and this is what I want to do forever. And I got to carry on that. I never had to stop that dream. My son at the moment, he either wants to be an astronaut or a football player, and I hope he can do either or both. I don't know. Who knows? I was so lucky. I did this school play, and I went, that's what I'm going to do. And then there's these hurdles. You have these obstacles that get in the way, and you have exam. And I was academically good, so there was the opportunity of good schools. And so you think, oh, am I going to go back? And of course, your parents are saying, hey, you've got this. You could go to a nice university, and there's not in any bad way, but there's always an obstacle to overcome. You go, no, I'm going to have a pop at drama school, and then you got to apply, and you got to get in, and then you get out of drama school. Oh, I've got to get an agent, and there's always obstacles. And I've just kept pushing on through. And I don't think it's a blind faith, because I've been terrified at every point. I think I still pinch myself that I'm still making a living out of that thing that little boy wanted to do. And I look at my fellow classmates at drama school, many of which were way better actors than I am. And some of them, didn't stay doing it. Some did. And it's a lot of luck and a lot of determination, and I don't think it's like some people are a bit competitive and egotistical in their determination. I just think you have to take a million knockbacks.
How do you, and that's the thing I find so fascinating, because in this industry it is about the knockbacks, but how do you make sure that those knockbacks don't set you back? How do you push past those knockbacks and push past that terrifying fear? Because, you finish your job and it's like, okay, now I need to go look for the next one. Will there be a next one?
I don't think it ever does go away.
Really?
I think No, I'm always terrified. Like, what's next? I don't know. I mean, it's terrifying. Look, I think it's an active process. Maybe some people have absolute blind faith, and yes, there's lots of actors I've met who seem have this incredible bubble of self-confidence, and I certainly don't have that. And I think it's a muscle you have to work. It's a conscious action. You got to get up in the morning and say, today I'm not gonna lose my faith and be terrified. And there's days when I'm furious. There might be I hear of a wonderful job, and not because someone else is going up it, but because I'm really passionate about it, and let's say I didn't get it, or worse, I didn't even get a shot at trying for it.
Yeah.
You have to just, in that day, you can feel whatever you feel, but then the next day you've got to get on with it. It's easier with kids because I've got to get them to school and get the packed lunches together. But I wouldn't want to be sitting in a home on my own staring at the ceiling, because then you really would mull over how hard it is. Some actors know what they're going to do for the rest of their life. They go from job to job to job. The rest of us mere mortals have these gaps where we're panicking, and we have to make decisions about which job is good for us and good for our career. And it's hopefully we have representation that gives us good advice.
Tell me about your next project, Prisoners of Paradise.
Yeah, we shot that in COVID on Mauritius. And Mauritius was shut down for COVID, so we had to come in. It was like military only, and so it was paradise. There's not a single tourist. It's an empty island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It was a beautiful project to make. I don't know where we're at with distribution. Like any independent film, making the film is the easy bit. Selling it is often the hard bit, and it's a shame. There's some lovely people involved, and it was a very special story. Look, what are we going to do when there's a cinema complex just by me. It's got 24 screens, and whenever there's a Marvel film or one of these things, and I've been in them, so I'm not totally dissing it, they take up 20 screens. So there's only 4 screens left, and then that's going to be a DC film. So and then what's tragic is they take up 20 screens, but they don't fill the seats, so they just block it out. And so films like Prisoners of Paradise, they could be in any of those other screens. There's just not the space for it, and it's a whole process of independent cinema that has to be reevaluated. Yeah. And I think it's got to come from the cinemas. I don't know why the cinemas don't put a Marvel film in 6 screens and sell it out. It's so much more fun for an audience member to be in a full house and feeling everyone else's experience. Yeah. But I go to these films with my kids, and there's 4 people in the audience, and it's in 20 screens. Like, take 4 screens and then let the rest of independent cinema have the other 16. I'd love to see that. I don't want to have to go to just an art house cinema to see an independent film. Yeah. So I think there's a major readjustment that has to change. And everyone says, "Oh, well, it doesn't make money, independent cinema." I said, "Well, that's because you're not putting it in the cinema. You're not giving it a chance for people to go watch." Exactly.
And just finally, because I've taken up too much of your time, but the thing that I love about the Peripheral is that we can have that water cooler moment because it drops every week. You can wait until December 9 and binge it all in one go, or you can watch it weekly. So we have a few more weeks to go. As I said, the finale is on the 9th of December. What can fans expect from the rest of the season?
Well, I've seen the first 6, so I haven't seen the last 2. We did a major reshoot and changed the whole ending, and I don't even know.
No way!
Yeah. I cannot wait. I'm going to tune in to the last 2 for sure. The scale gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and what we learn is we start to learn about this word that we hear about called the jackpot, and we start learning about how the past crashes into the future, and the stakes get higher and higher and higher. And we set up, like any of these big shows, you're kind of setting up the future world. So we set up our jump into season 2, and it gets more and more exciting. The stakes get huge. There's this power struggle between 3 in the future, and there's Sharice Snowden, the head of the RI, which is the Uber tech, and then played by Tania Miller, and then there's the police, who are sort of both police, judge, and army. In the future, the police can execute you on the spot, and that's played by Alexandra Billings. And then there's myself, who's the head of the KLEP, the Russian oligarchy. And so that power struggle of who's going to control the future, that comes to a head and sets us up for season 2.
Looking forward to that. I could talk to you for so much longer, but you know what? Let's just pick up again in season 2.
Do it. It's a date.
Yes, JJ, thank you so much, and enjoy the reunion with your folks, and enjoy my hometown.
Thanks so much. Thank you.